Om Sahanā-Vavatu, Sahanā-Bhunaktu, Saha Vīryam Karavā-vahai, Tejas Vinā Vadhīta Mastu, Ma Vidvishā-Vahai. Om Shānti, Shānti, Shāntihi. On Bliss of Liberation, Sivananda Saraswati, and for all of the saints and sages of all the traditions. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shivadas, please move to your left about 8 inches. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. Now you frame the shot instead. The things the Lord has us learn. It's amazing, you know. We begin chapter 8. And chapter 8 is the patterns of thought culture. So referring to current culture and new culture, how to craft new culture. So he starts with discrimination and inner mental culture. Whenever desires crop up in your mind, do not try to fulfill them. So we had an example of this 2 weeks ago when Sean was already out the door and said, I'm going out, Tommy. He said, is it okay? I go out and get ice cream and because Shivadas and I are craving ice cream. I said, what? What he should have said and what you should have said, which was?
If it comes to you. Then...
I said, absolutely not. We did not say if it comes to you first. We said, absolutely not. You've just provided all the reasons in the world why you should not do it, and you're wanting to be able to recognize it. He even used the word craving. Craving. Oh my God, stay away. If it comes to you, you can enjoy, but unasked. But you know, we also will meditate on those cravings in the mind. And then they'll come and we'll say, well, I didn't ask for it outside. So do not try to fulfill them. Reject them through discrimination, right inquiry, and dispassion. You will get tranquility of mind and mental strength by constant practice. For those who joining us that might have asked the question, why would I do that? Because it's so wonderful. This is the answer. It's to have peace of mind. And through this practice, the mind is thinned out. The mind is checked directly from wandering. Checked. So you understand the context of that. Checked. So overseen. The child who's being watched behaves much better. And when the child knows that he or she is being watched, and mind is the child. So the more it knows that it's being watched and overseen, then the better it behaves. Funny thing, habits and how habits are. Because when it knows that it's overseen, at first there's frustration, right? But at some point there's gratitude and appreciation. The mind is thinned out, checked directly. If the desires are eradicated, the thoughts also will die by themselves. So you don't want to stop thought culture that is beneficial. It's only detrimental thought culture that you're wanting to remove, to eradicate, right? When we begin to recognize that we've been under the control of the mind instead of the other way around, we see this can't stand. The thoughts die by themselves. They don't arise any longer. The mind is detached from the manifold sense objects by continually observing their defects and is fixed on Brahman. defects. Defects are, of course, related to the way we think about the object. It's very funny, and it sneaks in so seemingly unobtrusively, but somebody will say, and it starts, of course, before it's said out loud. It's said in the mind or heard in the mind. She's a pretty girl, he's a handsome guy, something like that. But the truth of the matter is that's not correct. And we don't check it. We don't check it. And if we're not checking it, we're not seeing that that's a defective thought. So it's not that the object has a defect. It's that the thought is defective. Does that make sense? If you see soul nature, then of course you see the same beauty in all. But if there's an idea, she's beautiful or he's whatever, then that's a defective thought. Does that make sense? Also for those joining us. Because it's not inherently correct. It is inherently formed through this relationship with raga-dvesha, with the likes and dislikes. And we're not seeing, but everyone is subject, the mind is subject to different conditioning in this maya. So one likes this way, another likes that way. The likes and dislikes not the same from one to one. And they're entirely objective. We don't mean objective in terms of beneficial. We mean all about the object, the appearance of the object, never about the essence. So he's talking about the mind is detached from the manifold sense objects by continually observing their defects. It's not, it sounds like he's saying the defects of the sense object. He's not. He's saying the defects of your seeing. So when you see something pleasing or smell something pleasing or touch something pleasing, it really is beneficial for you to correct that immediately.
So how would that work if, like, say, for example, you're doing like karma yoga in the kitchen or something, and you use the senses to sort of like smell or taste, but you're not being attached. Is that the idea? Is you're not, you're trying to make the food.
You have to have real karma yoga attitude in order to avoid the trap. Right. It is a trap. Because the first time the thought, I want this, comes, then once again you've lost yourself. So it's really necessary to keep cultivating. And we understand that it will come in the beginning, but you want to be able to recognize it and convert it. It's not about me. I'm not doing this because I want. I'm doing this as an offering. And you see, you have the ability to look at your own inner state, and so you're the only one that can check it. Somebody else can think that you're in the kitchen because you enjoy it. Somebody can think that you're walking across the country because you like to walk. It's fine. Let them think what they think. It's not about that. It's about how you relate to it. So it's a beautiful question. It has to be about that. And so if the bhava is there, then of course you will want to offer to the divine that which is sweet and tasty. And how will you know? Well, the senses will help you, but after some time, you'll even find that there's a flow there too. Right? After learning something about it and observing through the practice, you'll find there's a flow there too. The great karma yogi, great bhaktin cooks never taste and never smell. And if they start to smell, they stop it. They stop it right there. They won't do, because the smell, the taste, all of that is for their beloved. That's all. And they'll take the leftover prasadam. That's Krishna, and the one who takes the leftovers is freed. So they'll take the leftover. They'll take, after their beloved is enjoyed, then they'll take the offering that comes back. And that offering coming back is like ambrosia, because it's what the beloved has offered back.
It's like Mataji, she would always come to me and say, you taste it, she would never taste.
Yeah, right. Because she sees Shiva in you.
Right.
And so when she asks, then it's an offering. Yeah. So yeah, it's a step-by-step, definitely. But it starts with the intention. In the practice of Sama, the 5 jnana indriyas, or organs of knowledge, that is the sense organs, are also controlled. And we're just talking about it. So Sama, of course, is serenity of mind, samadhi. And Sama is produced by constant eradication of the vasanas or desires. That's what Swami Sivananda says. So, and this discussion actually is good in terms of seeing that relationship too, right? The less the desires, the more the happiness. And we do understand that one desiring to be happy will take up the path of yoga. But we were talking the other day, at some point, however, the desire for personal happiness, my happiness, has to be released, because you'll get stuck. You'll get stuck. And you'll come face to face with, I'm still doing it for me. Yes. And seeing that, you're going to have to let go of it. You're going to have to make it an offering.
But it's a good start, because you're thinking, I want happiness, and now I know happiness is just...
That's why the masters say the only way to happiness is to find it inside, and here's the way. And so we start there. It is true. It is true. And we make some progress, and then we feel like we get stuck. So it's true. But the sattvic thought that will come then is that my happiness is the happiness of all. It's the happiness of others. It's the happiness of the beloved. And so the self-seeking actually transforms. Unwholesome thoughts and self-watchfulness. Fully realize for yourself the grave and ruinous consequences of evil thoughts. This will set you on your guard when the evil thoughts would come. The moment they come, exert yourself or divert the mind to some other object of divine thoughts, prayer, or japa, or kirtan, etc. Consequences. What are consequences of negative or evil thoughts?
You're losing yourself.
That's a big consequence. Is just one, entertaining one, creates space for her friends, his friends. Yeah? And then it becomes easier and easier. It's a slippery slope then. So there's that. And of course there are physical consequences as well. So that's really the beginning of waking up. It is recognizing the consequences of our thoughts and our words and our actions. So remorse, we talked about remorse the other day. Remorse is a great aid to awakening. In modern culture, we say it's a terrible thing to have remorse, but really in yoga, psychology, we see that it's the beginning of transformation. Yeah. So grace. A real earnestness to drive away the evil thoughts will keep you on the alert, so much so that even if they appear in dream, you will at once wake up. Should the enemy appear when you are awake, it will not be very difficult for you to cope with him. if only you are sufficiently watchful. You must be saved from the malformation and miscarriage of your mind. Mind is like a playful child. The clement energies of the mind must be bent to become the passive channels for the transmission of truth. The mind must be filled with sattva. It should be trained to think of truth or God constantly. And for those of us that have begun to have some devotional feelings, that is one of, or perhaps the best way to switch things up, is to immediately relate to God, however we relate, when that anger or greed or lust just begins to form. To immediately, and kirtan or japa, or to immediately relate. Not in a negative way, not in a way that says, God's going to see what I'm doing and I'm going to get punished and all that, although that can be beneficial at some point. That's when we sing Amazing Grace, the line that says, "Grace taught my heart to fear," that's that one. And then, through grace, my fears released. If we can relate devotionally and make an offering of some sort inside, then it has the potential of switching it up very quickly. I watch Anjaneya, and Anjaneya will run right to the temple. He'll go right to Durga temple. He knows where to go. God bless. So, and again, this concept of when it relates to the thoughts, there's actually no middle ground. Under the sway of ego, under the sway of the feeling of being separate, a thought will arise, well, I'm pretty good. I'm mostly good. Mostly I think of beneficial things. Every now and then, I just enjoy these guilty pleasures or however we're relating to them. I'm mostly good. And it's the same that will arise when we feel like we've been caught and we have to justify ourselves. Then the thought will come, well, you don't understand me. Still objectified, right, towards some other. But we'll even get that inside. That's where it starts, is sometimes when you're looking at those thoughts, they themselves will say, well, give me a little breathing room. I remember hearing one day from a person, but it might as well be your own mind, I'm not a dog. Don't treat me like that. And so we will get objections that are raised, but there's no middle ground when it comes to thoughts. As long as we give quarter to limited thoughts that are self-desire based, as long as we give quarter to them, they hold space. And as long as we give quarter to them, there's always the war going on, and always the potential that they will take us over once again. Even in a moment or multiple moments or days or for a long time. We want to recognize, Peace Pilgrim would say that what we want is everything, thought, word, action, to lead towards peace. Everything. And if anything's not leading towards peace, cut it. However we have to cut it, and we're stepping through so many techniques here, but cut it. Whatever it is. Don't allow yourself to adopt the attitude, it's okay, I'm mostly good. It's okay, we're mostly clean in here. Because only when you really have that inner bhava where you're watchful and no self-centered thoughts or desires are arising, they're not allowed to arise. You're so vigilant then you have real peace.
So there's the one-pointed concentration.
Yeah, so of course the best way to do what we're talking about is to have one-pointed mind. Yeah, to see the beloved everywhere. And to think only of the beloved. Just like Krishna says, think only of me. He doesn't say think of me most of the time. Right? So that is the cure, the best cure. But there are multiple techniques that we're utilizing, all of which are divine in terms of being watchful like this and rooting them out. It's not that you want to be down on yourself. It's not about that. It's not about berating yourself. You have this terrible habit and beating yourself up. It's not that at all. Because we recognize at some point we can change any of them. And it's just recognizing I need to change all of them. I can't be done. Because the minute I say I'm done, we see what happens. And something creeps back in and so he says, every thought must be constructive and noble. Thoughts are only refractions. Slay all of them. Go thou within the light of lights. And again, concept is, but even the masters have thought. Recognize the differences. They're utilizing them. They would not say that they're thinking, interestingly. They might. They might say it, but in an inspiring way. Swami Sivananda says, think only good thoughts. And what is a good thought? A good thought is something that's for the benefit of all. So, and then thinking becomes an instrument, a tool. Something that you can morph and change for the purpose, for the occasion, for the time, for the person that you're wanting to uplift, that you're wanting to be beneficial towards. So sometimes when he says, slay the thoughts, it's really being said, slay the I-ness and mine-ness. Slay the self-centered desire for something. And in so doing, the feeling that I'm thinking, that I need, etc., those drop away. And when you look at our thoughts, you see that how much of a percentage of our thoughts during the day are related to physical, emotional wants and needs. Right? How much is about food? How much is about how people are treating us? We're saying normal, but even in ashram, fights break out in ashram. Right now, it's a very quiet time. There aren't many of us here. But when they're 20, we did see a different play. And that fight that comes out is just related to this thought, I should be treated differently. Right? And so how many of the thoughts are related to emotional needs and wants? How many are related to physical needs and wants? That smells nice. I'm repeating it out loud, but the thought, that. That's a form. If evil thoughts enter your mind once a month instead of thrice weekly, remember that evil thinking is the beginning of adultery. He makes that point specifically. If you become angry once a month instead of once weekly, that's a sign of progress. It's a sign of your increased willpower, a sign of growing spiritual strength. Be of good cheer. Keep a diary of spiritual progress. And then yogic thought culture. The supra-physical phenomena occurring in the practice of yoga and the practitioner's experience on subtler planes are viewed with suspicion and regarded as mere oriental magic. Yoga is neither fanciful nor does it contain anything abnormal. It aims at the integral development of all faculties in man. It is the time-tested, rational way to a fuller and more blessed life, that will naturally be followed by one and all in the world of tomorrow. All methods of yoga have ethical training and moral perfection as their basis. The eradication of vices and the development of certain virtues form the first step in the ladder of yoga. The disciplining of your nature and the formation of a steady and pure character through a set of right habits and regular daily observances is the next step. Upon this firm foundation of a well-established and virtuous moral character is built the further structure of yoga. And then substitution, thought culture by the method of substitution. The substitution method is very easy and effective in the destruction of evil thoughts. Cultivate positive thoughts, virtuous thoughts of mercy, love, purity, forgiveness, integrity, generosity, and humility in the garden of your mind. The negative, vicious thoughts of hatred, lust, anger, greed, pride will die by themselves. It's difficult to destroy the evil thoughts by attacking them directly. You will have to tax your will and waste your energy for that. And one more that we'll read before we close. This is Spiritual Methods for Thought Culture. If you think again and again of an impure thing, it gains new strength. It gets the force of momentum. You must drive it immediately, so no harbor. If you find it difficult to do so, entertain counter thoughts of God. And granted, we were just talking about, there has to be, most of us in the world today, we think of God, we get angry, it's crazy. Because we're just, again, dealing with our own ideas, our own mental constructs, our own concepts of things. So we could say, and this will work, think of something higher. We can say like that. So think of being in nature. We'll do the same. The more we have the capacity to relate to nature as God, the better. Cultivate sublime and elevating thoughts. Evil thoughts will die by themselves. A noble thought is a potent antidote to counteract an evil thought. This is easier than the former method. By repetition of God's name thousands of times daily, good thoughts gain new strengths. By repeating Aham Brahmasmi 1,000 times daily, the idea that you are the spirit, Atman, becomes stronger. The idea that you are body becomes weaker and weaker. He's given us another good practice. If evil thoughts enter your mind, don't use your will force in driving them. You will lose your energy only. You will tax your will only. You will fatigue yourself. The greater the efforts you make, the more the evil thoughts will return with redoubled force. They will return more quickly also. The thoughts will become more powerful. Be indifferent, keep quiet, and they'll pass off soon. Or substitute good counter thoughts. Again, pratipaksha bhavana. Or think of a picture of God in the mantra again and again, forcibly, with strength, with strong will. Switch it with strong will. Or pray. He adds those two words as a sentence, or pray. Or pray. And praying in this case can be to ask for help.
So in that case, it's okay to ask for help.
That's not for yourself, that's for everyone. That's for all. You should know that. I mean, no. So feel free. Yes. To ask for help to be better. Oh my God, yes. That's not self-centered at all. That's the opposite of self-centered. To recognize that we have a tendency which is rooted from personal desire and wanting to be free of it is selfless. Or capital S, self-centered. That to have that desire is a desire that leads towards freedom. So thank you. Good question. Good question. Oh my, yes. And in fact, we even say, normally we would say prayer is communion with God, simply having a banter, having a communication with God. But here, to specifically ask for help to root out detrimental tendencies is a great prayer. And that's when we absolutely want to go to the source and say, please help me. And of course, our experience is often the help that comes is exactly the experience that brings the thought forward. But that is, yeah. But if we look though, we'll see is it often comes at the same time as another counter thought, which is the way out. Okay. Would you check for comments or questions, please? Sorry, before we close. Okay, let's close. Final prayer in RT, page 174. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvai Rukameva Vandanan Mrityoi Mukshiyamamritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvai Rukameva Vandanan Mrityoi Mukshiyamamritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvai Rukameva Vandanan Mrityoi Mukshiyamamritat Om Sarvesham Swastir-Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir-Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Shantu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Makashi Dukhabhag Bhave Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityoi Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudashyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shānti Shānti Shāntihi. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Thou art Satchidananda. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute. Thou art the indweller of all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion, and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptation and to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, anger, greed, hatred, and jealousy. Fill our hearts with divine virtues. Let us behold thee in all these names and forms. Let us serve thee in all these names and forms. Let us ever remember thee. Let us ever sing thy glories. Let thy name be ever on our lips. Let us abide in thee forever and ever. On below Sri Swami Sivananda Saraswati ki, and for all of the saints and sages of all the traditions.